Test him 1.
Test him 2.
Test him 3.
Test him 4.
Yay!
Welcome everyone to the Test Him podcast, and welcome Katie Rowlings.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's very lovely here.
We like it. We like it.
All right, isn't it?
Yeah, our award-winning podcast. I mean, we'll just put that in there. You know,
I mean, Ian's award-winning podcast. So we have to remind him, don't we?
Yeah, for the second year running. Let's not
no,
forget
they
that.
did actually say test him.
Did
they
they
did
this
say
time?
test him.
They did say test.
I mean, there isn't actually any space for any more trophies up there. There's
No,
so
but
many.
that's-
No, there is quite a few up there, isn't there?
Yeah, we'll probably stop now. Stop collecting trophies. Well, you can't
No,
stop.
you
I
can't
can't
stop
stop collecting
collecting
trophies.
trophies.
There's a few more to add to that, to be fair. So.
Yeah. No, I think you've thrown me already now. I've completely lost my... But anyway, yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So yeah, we've invited you in to share your story, but importantly, share about the amazing work you've done setting up a brand new charity in the shape of Fertility Action.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long process, but we've got there and we are launched and we are working with some amazing people like the ones I'm sitting with right now. And it's going well. It's a slow, hard process to start a charity. And I'm really hopeful that it's going to fill a gap with a bunch of very compassionate humans making positive change together. And I love the fact that there's so many of us already involved and more people coming in. So yeah, I think exciting times are ahead.
Yeah. You said a long time. It feels like it happened quite quickly. I mean...
It feels like a long time, but maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe publicly it was quite quick.
it was about a year and a bit in the
Yeah,
background.
I suppose, it wasn't that long, probably thinking of it like that. But I think the thing is, there's so much stuff to do when you're setting up a charity. There's so many bits and bobs that kind of come in at the side and you don't quite realise it until you start it. And I've never run a charity before. I've never worked for a charity before. I've only ever run a business before. So, and even then, I'm not running it on my own. There's 3 other people that are much more clever than me. So it's really different, but it's a great challenge. And I've enjoyed it. Even, it's been a very short time so far, but it's great. And I've found the key so far for me to having the best time is asking a few questions and then just listening. Like Mike and I just had a great chat earlier. And I just think it's interesting. You just throw a few questions out there and then people have got this array of information, particularly in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating what you can learn if you just stop talking.
And huge levels of passion as well, right? Huge levels of passion in this as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
everyone really cares.
unbelievably so. And I think I saw in all 3 of you when we first met, you all had your own individual passions and you could see it was utterly invested in the end goal. And I think more and more people in this sector are like that and they're starting to find their way on different paths. But actually for all of us, the end goal is the patients have a better experience. That's what we all want to achieve. So it's quite easy to align with people when they have that mindset. And actually when it's coming from a centre of compassion where there's kindness running throughout all of the actions that are taking place, and it's not focused on ego and money, it's actually focused on how people's experiences are going to play out. And I think that's when you naturally start to find your people, and that's what's really happened with the charity organically. So I'm very fortunate, really.
Yeah. Well, I've always said to you, the people you've got around you already, like your board of trustees and stuff, like they're phenomenal people. You've kind of attracted the best, which is only got to be testament to you in terms of your ethos and what you're trying to create. It's like, wow, you've got the best people around you.
Either that or I'm just really persuasive.
There might be that as well.
might be.
Yeah, or such a nuisance that people are just, oh, for God's sake, yes, I'll say yes. Just
All right.
stop bloody asking.
I think that they've definitely all taken a massive risk on me, for which I'm so grateful. And I think they are real leaders in their fields, all of them. And I've learnt so much from each and every one of our trustees. And there are so many things that we need to cover here in this sector that it's not just, we're obviously looking at the male side of things, but as you know so well, there's so many layers to that. That's not just one simple process. But then separately to that, we've got lots of marginalised groups that currently are not getting the focus they need. We've got so many things when it comes to the actual process emotionally for the males and the females that really need looking at. I know Sarah Banks, the IVF positivity planner, she did a fantastic presentation at ESHRA, which I keep hearing about patient experiences and care. And I think we need to look more at that and where Test Him are doing a brilliant job there, supporting men through it and creating a space. there isn't really enough of that still. There is, it's slowly starting to eke through. And I think we have some incredible psychologists and counsellors within the sector. But I think we need more, and it needs to become affordable for patients, because actually the ones that we see in our support groups, they all want to have additional help, but sometimes they can't afford it. And I think that's where the charity is going to be able to come in and provide additional support where people really need it, and actually make it easy for people to access it, which you're already doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's critical, isn't it, really? It's about working collaboratively with a lot of different experienced people, and people that are passionate about doing the right thing for patients. And, you know, we are completely aligned to all of those sort of things, and we can only really exist if we work collaboratively with some of the best people in the industry, and doing things like this podcast is testament to that. We've had some fantastic guests that have come and shared their experience and the best practices which are out there, and we want to continue to work with, you know, really, really good talented people and bring them together, just like you're saying, and Fertility Action is all about that, is bringing together some fantastic people with a common goal, is to really to help people that want a family to be able to try and achieve that family from whatever background that they are in. So it's fantastic to have you in here today, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. I do think it's really interesting, as you say, Michael, it's when you have a urologist, an embryologist, a gynecologist, a researcher, someone fighting as an advocate for LGBTQIA plus rights, someone who is really knowledgeable about donor conception. When you start bringing all these people together into one room, there's so much more power behind what you're doing, because none of us can be experts at everything. I am certainly not an expert in hardly anything yet at the moment. I probably never will be. But luckily, I'm in the room with people who are absolutely fantastic at their topic, and actually bringing them all together, I think, is going to be the way forward for fertility. We can't just be looking at one singular method and be solely focused on that. If we're going to create bespoke patient pathways and actually provide what is needed for patients, we really need to understand all aspects. And I think the holistic element comes in, as well as the scientific element, as well as the emotional element. And I think that is the key to us being able to progress forward, and for patients to feel really heard, because once we start putting everyone in one box and creating one specific and generic treatment pathway, there's always going to be a number of people that aren't served. And again, this is just my opinion. I have no medical training there, but I truly believe, from bringing all these different brains and perspectives and opinions into a room, you can hear this brilliant thing being created. And I hope that we can bring more and more of those different perspectives in and see where it takes us, really.
Fertility connector. There we go. That's your skill set.
Maybe.
There,
Well,
right
that's
there.
it, isn't it? It's kind of like you sort of said, oh, I'm not an expert, or I don't feel like I'm an expert in anything. In some ways, you need to know a lot about everything, but you don't need to be the expert in it. What you're doing is pulling all of these people together and creating that collaborative mission and vision. So it's really there to kind of deliver your vision. It's kind of like being a CEO, isn't it, of any organisation, whether it's a charity or a commercial organisation. The team around you are there to deliver or help support you on your vision and mission. So
yeah, and I think it's something that's become very apparent with the people that I'm working with, is they are such experts within their own right, and they haven't always, all of them, been seen. Obviously, some of them have, clearly, but I think some haven't been seen for where their true values lie. And I think it's so interesting when you meet someone and you're really interested in what they have to say, and you listen, and the things inside them that they're passionate about just start to come out, and you see the best in people. And I think I have been so fortunate to see that in the people that we're working with. And it's just really exciting, because they get excited, they get passionate, and together we move forward. And that's always the direction you want to be going.
absolutely, yeah. Where did it all start then? What kind of, what was that moment of,
What's that
like, you know what,
drive?
I'm going to set up a charity? That
Yeah,
seems
takes
like a
more
great idea. Because you're not
There's always a reason, isn't there?
Yeah, you're not
So-
sitting around on your hands normally, are you? You're running
No.
other things.
I think for me, I had got to a stage where we had just had our twins. We had gone through a 7-year process before we had them, and I was actually sat on a playmat with them. And I remember just thinking, I felt so happy in that moment. We were, the things that make the noises, the really annoying things that make the noises. But I was sat with them and they were both giggling and they were in this mat. And I just thought, this is the best thing. And my heart, which had previously felt so heavy to the point where you feel like genuinely breathing can become a difficult thing when you're really grieving and you're finding it difficult. And I just got to this point where I just thought, I'm so happy. And I was sat on this mat and I could just feel these kind of hot tears coming out of my face. And I was thinking, why am I crying? Like, I'm so happy. Like, are these happy tears? What's going on? And in that moment, I just thought how incredibly sad it was that I am now so happy. And I had gone from being so sad. And I just couldn't bear the thought that there were people that I knew that couldn't afford to have fertility treatment and were stopping. And I thought, this can't be right. In England, where we're living now in the UK, where we've got these brilliant minds, and actually we've got a lot of privilege in our country. Yeah. Should people not be able to have children due to infertility because they can't afford it? And I just thought, absolutely not. So what can we do? So it ignited a conversation with my husband. And at the time, I'd been having coaching with a lady called Mariki Trotsky, amazing woman. And she said, well, why don't you start one? And I said, well, I'm not really confident enough. Like, it's a bit scary. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she said, do it. You can do it. And I didn't believe her. We had a meeting. We spoke to a guy about adoption as well, because we were looking at different ways that the charity could help people on the path. And I just thought, no, I just can't do it. I'm too afraid to have my face on camera. I can't do it. So I just shelved it for a bit. And then I started training to become a fitness instructor. And actually during that training, fell pregnant naturally with my third child, Rosie, which I couldn't quite believe it had happened. And I think after having Rosie, I realised that you can do these hard things. I never could have imagined ever falling pregnant naturally, having gone through all the fertility cycles that we've been through. I then got persuaded by my sister to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and it was
As you do.
It was really hard.
There's another mad person in your life.
And she didn't even finish it. She left me. She went off.
Oh, I know that
Hang
one.
on, so she roped you in
She wrote me in.
like I did with Ian?
Yeah.
To go to Everest Base Camp and then didn't bother doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
Similarities
really?
going
You
on
guys
here.
did the same?
Yeah.
I think I'll get on really well with your sister.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. She is absolutely amazing. But climbing ended up not really being for her. It was the altitude. She struggled.
It's
And
tough.
it was
Achilles tough. It's one of the toughest, I think.
so tough. But
Alicia attempted
amazing.
At least she attempted it, I suppose. I didn't even
Yeah.
have a flight.
Did you not?
No.
No way. I'd quite like to try Everest Base Camp. Looks like quite a good
I
one.
did want to do it, to be fair.
I'd happily go again.
Maybe that should be
Really?
the next fundraiser
Really?
for Fertility Action.
wow.
What do you think?
Yep.
I'm game.
Yeah.
I'm game this time.
I'll consider it.
Okay.
Mike?
It's easy compared to Killy.
I need to do some training, I think, but I could be persuaded, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we climbed the mountain, and I just thought, do you know what? While I was climbing, I was walking with a load of entrepreneurs. They're real like business clever people. And one of them had actually started a charity, Chris, who founded a charity called Hope 4 that helps children in Moldova with everything that's going on in the Ukraine. And it was really inspiring chatting to someone who'd started a charity. And I thought, well, actually, this is achievable. Like, maybe I could give this a go. And I mean, cut a long story short, I came back from Kilimanjaro and literally started that day writing a business plan and a mission statement and a vision and what I wanted to do. And I kind of went a bit obsessive for a good few months, head down, probably until May.
A few months.
I'm
Still going,
now,
right?
yeah. Poor Ian is always getting these random texts from me like, do you know about this piece of research? He's like, Kate, it's 9:30 at night. I don't want to know.
On a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and then it started from there, really. Sorry, that was like the longest story ever, wasn't it?
No,
great.
but
It's
it
great.
gives you,
Journey there.
it's that purpose of why. And I think it's really interesting that the Mount Kilimanjaro climb and meeting one other individual has kind of spurred what had been, I guess, a couple of years worth of sort of thinking about doing it. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good few years. It was by the time my the twins were 6.
wow. So yes, it's
Yeah.
a number of years, but it's amazing how you can meet an individual and suddenly your path down goes a completely different road of what you really wanted to do. So fair play.
I think as well, having the confidence in yourself is quite a hard thing, because I'm not someone that is, although you might not think it when you meet me, you think I'm probably extroverted and confident. I find confidence quite a hard thing to master. And I think when you come into any sort of industry, but you're brand new, you obviously, there is a fear of judgment there. And also, I'm not a medical professional. I'm coming in as a nobody saying I want to make changes. And there's an element of imposter syndrome and needing to prove yourself. And actually, I think through a year of having counselling, I realised that actually I don't need to prove myself. What I want to do is make a change, and I just need to work hard and work with the right people, and then hope that the credibility and everything follows suit, really. And thankfully, so far, I have managed to work with people where I have a really good relationship, and it's worked really well. But I think the confidence thing, it starts to grow the more you do these things. But it is tough if you're not naturally that sort of person to kind of get on a camera, do a podcast, you know, it's kind of scary.
I think
It's a
we've all,
first step, isn't it?
I was going to say, I think we've all been sort of subject to that imposter
Absolutely.
syndrome, haven't
Yeah,
we?
still
And I
live
know,
with it all the time.
You know, and I think, you know, me around a racetrack, but Toby around the fertility circuit as well. You know, I mean, they're all circuits, but, you know, I think we've all experienced it, haven't we,
Absolutely.
from time to
All
time.
the
But the
time.
more that you learn, the more that you interact with other people, the more the confidence that you actually have and said, actually, there is a voice here that needs to be heard. And we all need to share that voice because it's important. It's important for you as an individual, but more importantly, for those people that really can't get access to what they should be entitled to. And we talked about that earlier on, didn't we?
Yeah.
So how inequitable certain things are, and fertility is one of them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think coming back to credibility, I think, you know, you taking that step to do it earns you a huge amount of credibility, because what you're attempting to do at the start of that to where you are now is a huge thing.
That's
you know,
amazing.
there are other charities, and obviously you're fully aware of what your ambitions are. But taking one step forward is, I mean, fair play to you, absolutely fair play to you, and look at the difference already that you've made in such a short space of time. I think that's also the thing that you've got to always hold on to. And if you ever feel an imposter in any room, don't, because you're here and you're doing it. You're doing a good job.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting because it's always a bit funny when you hear feedback like that, because I genuinely in my head feel like I haven't got anywhere yet. Genuinely, like
I know
there's
that
so
feeling.
much
Yeah,
to
we-
do.
There is
you
so
know?
much to do, and
Yeah.
there'll always be so much to do.
And
Start somewhere.
I would love one day to just, I think for me, the ultimate aim is to speak to just one patient and them say, if it wasn't for Fertility Action, I wouldn't have felt this, or I wouldn't have reached there. And I think as long as we have this purpose at the forefront of what we're doing, which is the patient's experience and making sure this incredible weight that we know so well,
Sure.
how it feels, can be a little bit lighter for people, then I will be so happy. I think it's not just about creating babies. Of course, that is the goal. And for most people, that is the end goal that they utterly desire to the nth degree. But it's also recognizing that some of these paths don't end in children, but they also do end in happiness. And that for some people, it's not just IVF or ICSI, it's maybe a donor conception path and what that looks like, or a same-sex couple route to parenthood, which actually comes through so much misunderstanding on the pathway. And even now, from what we've seen in Parliament, there's not always support for that side of things. And I think we have such a responsibility in the roles that we are playing to make sure that everybody is seen and heard. And I feel that as a charity, hopefully, this is something we'll be able to support and give voice to the people that actually really need a voice and that are not having the light shone on them at the moment. And I think that, aligned with the compassion, will hopefully provide a really nice, gentle, supportive journey for people to be able to say, do, and reach the place they want to reach.
And you can guarantee there will be people out there already that will say, thank goodness for Fertility Action, thank goodness for
absolutely.
Casey's work. It's made a difference to
And I
our
think,
journey.
and this is the thing, because it's not just my work either, there's so many of us, it also means that so many people feel happy when we get to that. It's not just me thinking, oh great, I've done X, Y or Z. there's so many people that have contributed to it. And seeing everyone's faces in Parliament with you guys last week, I mean, it was so lovely to see everyone lighting up with their passions, talking to the MPs about the things that they really care about. For me, that's a lovely thing to get, to just stand and observe this room full of people who are so passionate. And actually, these people are making change regardless of me in the room. They are all making change and influencing the MPs. And seeing someone light up like that is the best thing you could have ever asked for. I mean, Mike, you were amazing with that lady, weren't you?
Well, it was just an amazing opportunity, really. I didn't know what to expect before going into Westminster. I've never been into Westminster before and seeing MPs and speaking to them directly. But yeah, I think, I probably had a 20, 30 years worth of pent up sort of anxiety over fertility, but also, rare diseases, which I cover, and meeting that MP who was passionate about both what we were talking about on the day, which was fertility and male fertility. And I remember you introducing me, but then realizing that this MP also had, an absolute mission to do right by patients which are born with inherited metabolic diseases, which is another passionate area of mine, and being able to have that dialogue and have that connection was just absolutely amazing. It really was. So yeah, my passion really sort of sparked, and I was thinking, my goodness, we can make an impact here. As Fertility Action, and the opportunity to actually get in front of people that actually probably don't know as well as we do about what's going on in the industry.
Did they?
No, and that's what I found absolutely astonishing. So there was obviously interest in people actually coming to meet up with us. But the amount of information that we could impart in a very short space of time, was so impactful that people going like, actually, yeah, we do need to recognise this. And by being able to put a little board and take a photograph and actually agree with some of the statements that Fertility Action are campaigning on was absolutely amazing. So for me, it was a fantastic day. So thank you for that opportunity.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for coming along. I mean, it was such a great addition to have you in the room, and being able to speak with such authority on the topic was amazing. So, and I think they listened, didn't they?
Yeah, no, they really did. That was fantastic. And much as MPs get a bit of a shit stick sometimes, at the end of the day, they're public servants, and they're there to make a difference. They're there to change things, aren't they? So actually, those that came wanted to listen and wanted to learn, and they all spent a lot of time listening to us and chatting, which was incredible. So.
And I think the majority of MPs have gone into that line of work because they want to make positive change, like us. And I think sometimes I'm sure it's deserved, the negativity that comes through, but I think actually, again, that's probably an area where maybe the narrative needs to shift, and we need to work together with the MPs to try and make changes. It's such a waste of energy for any industry or any line of work to be throwing stones at each other. By working together and just listening to each other, I think just progresses everyone. And the same for the MPs. And they were great at listening. They had a lot of questions. They can ask some really tricky questions, actually. But they care. And actually, we're going to move forward with that. And we can't do it just us in a room full of MPs. We need everyone to be behind what we're doing. And we need everyone to just take a moment to click on the link and download an MP letter and send it to their MP, or vote in a petition, or share a page with something that we're talking about. Every single click or person that takes part makes a difference. It makes a difference in this campaign work. And I think the more we can kind of push that out there, the more we can really grow what we're doing.
And because I think it's very easy to become disenfranchised or kind of disconnected from this stuff and think, oh, well, what difference am I going to make, by signing a petition or filling out a letter and dropping it off. But actually, so I downloaded the letter and I put it on our stories.
Amazing.
Off I went down to my local MP's actual physical office. He was never going to be there, but I handed it in, and actually I felt like, yeah, you know what, I've done this.
Yeah.
And what I couldn't believe is I got a response within 24 hours.
Amazing.
From my local MP. And fair, it probably wasn't written by him. He might have, who knows. But I got a response. Yeah. And actually it was a reasonably measured response, and it kind of acknowledged what I said. And it's like, okay, cool. So if that's then sat in his head the next time there's a fertility conversation, then it might make a difference. And it was the same with the men's health strategy that we worked on together, and your submission was incredible, and you pulled
As
together
was yours, amazing.
Anand and Jonathan and Emma and all these other people. You know, and I said to so many people, it's like, well, if we do nothing, we're only going to live with the regret. You know, what could have happened? Whereas at least now we've put a load of evidence in, we've made our case. If nothing happened, it's like, okay, but we tried, you know, and we will carry on trying. And I think this is the thing, is you've got to keep sort of
throwing
banging
those seeds out, haven't you?
Throwing what out?
Throw the seeds.
Oh, well.
we got our first pun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sowing the seeds of love and everything else.
There we go.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so going back to the charity, and so this was born from your. This was born. The charity was created from your own experience, really, wasn't it? Because you, like I say, you went through, was it 7 years of treatment?
7 years and 5 rounds. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think most of us that do advocacy work, we've had some link to the kind of emotional side of things. And it was really hard. I really remember feeling that I didn't know if I would ever feel happy. It sounds so sad, but I felt like I was that child that I had a doll with me all the time, and I pushed a dolly in a buggy. And if the teddy bear didn't have an arm, I wanted the teddy bear without an arm because I wanted to look after it. So for me, not being able to become a mother was enormous, and people around me were just getting pregnant and getting pregnant and getting pregnant. And I had such a bad relationship with my body because my tummy was continually empty. And I found that really difficult to understand because I felt like I was made to be a mother and I just couldn't become one. And it really hurt. And I think seeing Tom, my husband, go through it with me, that hurt massively too. And I just felt that the focus, the light was always on me, and I didn't want it on me. I wanted people to support him, but I also didn't want anyone looking at me because I felt really ashamed. And I think there's such a difficulty. On our third cycle, we had a positive test and we celebrated with the family. And then sadly, that pregnancy didn't continue. And it was one of the biggest blows to either of us. But I think for me, the biggest kind of heartbreak, and actually I was talking in a focus group about this recently, and I kind of got really emotional and couldn't talk about it. So bear with me if I get a bit emotional. But Tom, he really broke down at that point when we'd gone to the scan, and it was one of the most painful things I think I've ever experienced, to see someone that I love that much break to that level. And that for me was a key element of me thinking, well, something needs to change for men here, because no one asked him. We had to go back into a waiting room full of people who were pregnant about to go and have a scan. There was no kind of offer of counselling. I didn't even know what counselling was at that time, and he would have never considered it then. He actually did later on have counselling, and it was really helpful. But I think there's no kind of cushion. It was just this raw kind of visceral pain that was felt by him. And I then wasn't sure if the pain I was feeling was my own loss or because the person I loved most in the world was literally breaking in front of my eyes. And I think for me, that was a really hard part of the process and probably ignited the male side of things and where my passion comes from there. But I think the journey then carried on. We got to our 4th round. We then struggled financially, and we got to the 5th round, and we said we weren't going to do it anymore. And actually, funnily enough, we were in the hotel that you had your event last year at Fertility 2025 in that exact hotel when Tom's parents said to us, we'll help you fund another round. And so weird. It was such a full circle moment to go to your event there.
Wasn't it?
And they kindly helped us financially to have one more round. And that was the one that resulted in us having our twins. And I think there's only so much pain a person can really navigate before something has to change. And I think I was talking about, I haven't spoken about this before, but my father actually passed away when I was 9. He had lung cancer. So I saw him navigating, a really serious illness from about the age of 6 or 7. So for me, what a family looked like was a lot of medical intervention and a family hurting that eventually became broken when he sadly passed away. And I think that also ignited for me an understanding in male health, and actually by looking at preventative measures. He was a very heavy smoker, looking at how lifestyle factors can impact you. And also I craved a family unit. I wanted a mum and a dad and my children. I wanted that family. And I think, so there was so many parts to my history really, which have contributed to the passion that I have now. And I think when you have gone through grief and when you've gone through hurt and when you've really struggled to get somewhere, you empathize to an enormous level with the other people that are in your shoes. And I think for me, to start the charity was it was a no-brainer. If I had the ability to change it even for just one person, it was a non-negotiable. We were just going to give it a go. And I'm very thankful that we've got to where we are and that the charity is starting to grow. But, you know, it's in its infancy still at the moment. We're at the beginning. And I would love to be able to raise so much money that we could pay for everybody's treatments and everybody's preliminary testing. But I guess the goal for us really is to fund it where the government doesn't fund it or the NHS doesn't fund it. And meanwhile, campaign to see how much we can help in either direction. So we've got a plan A, we've got a plan B, and we'll probably have a plan C at some point too. But the end result, hopefully, is that people don't have the level of pain that we went through.
Yeah, and it's about that support, isn't it? You know, I think once you've been through trauma, as an individual and through family life, it does change you. And I think, you know, taking that trauma and to put it into a positive light is so impactful, because you can, as you said, empathize with how other people are feeling throughout what they're experiencing. And to be able to help and support them is so invaluable, isn't it? I mean, the amount of pride and passion that we get out of what we do, and some of the positivity that we have through our support group and what we interact with on a daily basis is just so passionate. You know, we're so passionate about, you know, being able to help people, and it's not the financial impact. It's not the, you know, whatever it is. It is about the ability to actually help people try and achieve those dreams that they've wanted for so long, and yet not necessarily been on the right trajectory or right pathway of advice or education or awareness or where to go in their next step of that journey. So for us, it's so important, as it is for you, to be in alignment really, and to actually try and support as many people as possible. And it could be just picking up the phone. It could just be having a chat. It could be just saying, actually, life, is difficult right at this moment in time, but let's see what we can do to help you just move that trajectory and the level of support that's required, and just to triage them into what they may need to do, and to make an action plan. Because with an action plan, with some insight, you can make such a difference. And I think that's really what we enjoy working with you about, is that you've got that passion. You can see how it all needs to be connected, and the collaborative approach of working together will make a difference. And that for me is just absolutely just wonderful.
So when you were going through your treatment, and those, was it 7 years? 7 years. What support did you have around you at that time? What did you kind of reach out for? What did you and Tom?
We did. I mean, we had I think we had a leaflet once, but what we saw on it was just, it was very clinical. All of the wording, the branding, it was all just not very warm or relatable. And I think that was a problem for me. I mean, I love a laugh. I love a laugh. So if there's something that is quite relatable, kind of funny, like bright, you know, I like colour, I like fun. And for me to just see kind of like white coats and pale blue things on it, I was like, no, this isn't me. Like, I can't relate to this. And also, I didn't even understand what counselling was. I'd never had it. So I didn't know the difference between psychology, psychotherapy, counselling, coaching. And I was really confused, because there were all of these things, but I didn't know who was who and what was what and who to trust. And I think as well, social media wasn't such a thing then, because we started our process in 2010. So it wasn't really, you couldn't just go on and look up a hashtag of fertility and see what that meant and what support was there. And I think at the time there was one charity, but we hadn't approached them just because I think we just didn't really know what they did or what it entailed. So we just navigated it on our own. And I think as well, you don't think when you're in that position, I don't know, Toby, if you felt like this, you don't feel like you need help when you're there because you think I'm fine, and it's the kind of resilience button kicks in and you're like, I'll be fine, I can deal with it, I'll just keep going. So you don't seek help. But I think if it had been in front of me, I might have done now in hindsight. Would you?
Yeah, I agree, because I think when I was at the kind of the peak of my emotional trauma, I suppose I was at that point where I was like, if I now say to myself I'm not okay, I'm just going to break down, not be able to deal with anything, because I was trying to keep up a job, financial pressure, like you say. I needed to earn some more money for the next cycle or the next test or treatment or whatever. And I thought when I was offered the counselling, it was like you, it was just like a bit of paper. It was just like, oh, that's a bit shit. And I didn't feel like it was any benefit to me. And equally, the acceptance of actually needing it would have meant that at that time, had I known what I know now, I know counselling was actually a really good thing for me. But I thought at the minute I accepted that I was kind of, quote unquote, a misconception ill, then I wouldn't be able to then support Katie. When actually I found that once I did have counselling, it was like a whole new world that had opened up in front of me, and I was actually in a much better place. And it was interesting hearing about kind of like your kind of why about starting a charity. When I was going through my counselling, I remember saying to my counsellor who'd gone through her own fertility journey and eventually adopted, and I said that I want to do this work around male fertility testing, and this was before I knew Ian and Mike. I want a clinic. I literally saying these things to her, and I wanted to create a campaign called Racing for Fertility, and this is when this all started. And she said a similar sort of thing of like, why don't you do it? Like, why don't you actually just take an actionable step forward of making that difference? And it's amazing how those doors that you can go through can really transform your kind of perspective. And I think that's what it is with counselling, isn't it? Is when you've been given a leaflet that's really shit like that, your perspective is, well, that's not going to help me. Like you say, you're quite vibrant and fun. How you sort of package it can really transform that perception of will you want it or not. And it was only a benefit for me, really. I thought it was only a good thing after I actually took that sort of counselling on board.
I think it's interesting as well because for guys, I mean, my husband is the funniest man you'll ever meet in your life. He is a natural comedian and he's amazing. But because he's so funny, he wouldn't want to go into like let's all sit in a circle and
serious.
talk.
But that's what you expect it to be, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's a perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
and I think what you guys create is you see, like, you also have a laugh. Like, there's clearly humour there, and it doesn't have to all be, down feeling and talking serious stuff about your feeling. Of course there's a place for that, and everyone has those times where we need to have those emotions, but also it's nice to have a laugh and remember to enjoy life, because quite frankly, when we were doing it for 7 years, this whole process, it can get you down and it can be so draining. And I think to be able to find some kind of light in there and find organisations or people that you can relate to that feel more like a friend rather than a kind of scary medical person using words that I didn't really understand.
Pretend to understand.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to feel relaxed. And I think for us, and probably with my marketing background as well, I'm very aware that word of mouth marketing works better than your leaflet. And actually, we have grown, our support groups have grown absolutely enormous. And it's because people are saying, well, I go to this group, you should come. And they're bringing people to the group. And actually, I can see it's because they enjoy the groups. It's not, sometimes they are so heavy, these groups. And last week's was incredibly heavy with some of the things people were talking about. But some weeks are just really funny. Like people have got their cat's bums walking across the screen, or like their dogs eating their dinner with them, or like it sometimes we're just having a laugh. And I think that's the important balance. And I think is where you guys absolutely strike it right too.
Yeah, because that's what we did,
isn't it?
Yeah, because that's what we did when we started our very first online support group, was that we just want to be a bunch of blokes that just want to be there for other fellas, like just as casual as that. If we talk about fertility, great, fine, that's all good. If we talk about the football or what's going down on the weekend, what people are up to, that's also fine. But I think is that, especially coming from from my own experiences, just having a group of people that have kind of been on the journey or about to embark on it, is that kind of like almost brotherhood thing of like that acceptance of, I've got you, I know what you're going through, even if you don't talk about it. And I think that's so powerful, isn't it? And like the come back to that compassion part is then if we are having a session that someone's telling their life story about their own fertility and it does get a bit heavy, you've got just such a great supportive space for that. And that interestingly, online you can build that rapport so well, can't you? We've met like people that have, you know, in person now in 3D. Obviously now we're well out of the pandemic era. But when I met people for the first time from sort of the early doors of 2021, I think, was it 21 our first podcast? It's far ago now, isn't it?
Our first support group was 2020.
It was 2020, sorry, because that was the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah,
4 or 5 years on.
And then you meet people in the flesh for the first time. You just know them. It's like they're like your brother.
Although, do you find sometimes they're like really tall or really? I remember
or really short, like
at the fertility show, I met some of the people that we've been on our support group, and you're like, wow, or like your skin is really beautiful in real life. You start really staring at them, don't you?
Yeah.
I know. Sorry for anyone that I really stared at.
Everyone's be conscious of that now.
Obviously, being a short ass, so that's all I have. Oh, you're short.
You're really little.
Yeah. I'm much taller on Zoom. You know, much prefer it that way.
He sits on a high chair.
Yeah, you sit up, don't you, when you're on the podcast?
But this is what it's about, though, right? And it's trying to have a bit of fun and light in what is quite a difficult thing to navigate, and we're all very conscious of it. It's a tough journey, but it's so important to try and have
it
that
is
element.
interesting on those support groups now, because when you're right at the beginning, when people really don't know each other, then it can get a bit frosty at times, going like, well, what are we going to do next, or and so forth. But now it's now very well established. There's a huge amount of empathy that comes on, and especially when new people come through. And there's sometimes always a little bit shy, maybe off camera, maybe ask a few questions on the chat. And then all of a sudden they realise that they're in a room full of like-minded individuals, and actually it's really fun. And then they open up really quite quickly now, don't they? And often it's questions that we've experienced so many times before, that we've really got quite snappy, at sort of being able to really navigate them and push them and put them into the right frame of mind. And it's so exciting, actually, every time that we have these support groups. Sometimes it can be really challenging, but you're almost picking people up on their life journey and going, actually, it's okay. You're in a really, really good group here. We'll look after you. And then all of a sudden, things start to change, and they start asking questions. And then, as you were saying earlier on, they just listen and they go like, oh my goodness. And the last support group was no different, was it? In the fact that people had taken action. It was almost as though we'd written this, book, this testing guide of how men should be, looked after. And they are going like, oh my goodness. And they're following it, and they're seeing results. And it's like, oh my word, this is making such a difference. And the work that you're doing with all the other support groups that's in there, if people just take that opportunity just to sit, listen, and see what everybody else is doing, they'll be hooked, absolutely hooked. So,
Do you find in your support groups that you do get questions that seem to be asked quite regularly? And what I mean by that is I always feel that with some of the chaps that come along to our groups and ask questions, it's almost like because we're just a bunch of normal blokes, they feel really comfortable asking what might in their head seem a silly question, and there's no such thing in my head as a silly question. And I wonder actually if patients that come to these support groups that ask these questions, had that opportunity with a doctor but didn't ask it because they perhaps would have felt silly asking it because it is a professional. I just find these spaces just give that like sense of sort of safety and security to go, do you know what, actually, if I ask this question to Ian, because Ian's just a normal fella, he's not a doctor on the other side of the table, they feel more comfortable in asking it. And do you feel that that's similar with the groups that you've run? Yeah,
I really do. And actually, one of the first quotes I think that we posted, which was something I was really inspired by with the Fertility Matters at Work event that I went to, and Becky was speaking on the stage, and she always uses this quote where she says, "Shame dies when stories are told in safe places." And I really believe that is such an important quote for the fertility sector, because I think it's the shame. There is so much shame that is currently attached to our feelings when we go through the fertility process. And I think for men, it can be really hard. Like the whole semen analysis thing, it's terrifying being told to go in a room with your right arm. Do you know what I mean? It's not nice.
Or your left.
Or your left. Whatever floats your boat.
Or both.
All right.
Wow, that took a turn. It's really not nice. And I think to take the shame away and actually be in a room where there is no judgment, and actually you can just make a joke. We always talk about when you get so angry you want to pelt someone with pessaries, and we use it quite a lot actually on our social media. But it is that thing of being in a room where everybody understands you. Like a lady the other day went to a room where you smash plates. Have you heard of these?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
rage
it's one of those
rooms.
important,
Yeah, great.
That sounds
Great
awesome.
for fertility. Like when you're really angry and but she was saying, my friend has just announced she's pregnant. I have found it really hard. I'm so happy for her because, of course, I want her to not go through what I'm going through. I'm so happy for her, but I'm so sad for me. And I'm also really angry because I want it to be me. And to have all of those different emotions sat in one place is so difficult. And then when you look at the dynamic of a relationship, so whether your partner or husband or whoever is also feeling that pain, maybe shame, whatever, that must be a really difficult dynamic to live in. And I think being able to go to a room where you're just accepted for who you are, say what you want to say. I mean, some of our group, they're amazing. We have some swearing sometimes, we have tears, we have so many laughs. And I think the emotions are rife always. They're popping out all over the room. But the nice thing is we have an intro text for everyone that's new as well, and a welcome, so that people have time to read actually what's expected within the group. And they know that in this space, there is no judgment, and it's a kind and compassionate space. And if that's not what you can give, then this isn't the group for you. And we're very clear about that, which means that we get great people in our group. And actually, if we've ever, and I don't think we have actually, but if we were to ever have someone that might think about being a bit unkind, I think they know that it's not that sort of space, so they wouldn't probably come back. And actually it just means our WhatsApp group is popping off daily with everyone supporting each other when they've had a difficult diagnosis, or sometimes as well it's just things like the doctor has just given me an explanation about DNA fragmentation. What has your doctor said? And obviously we say in the groups, don't share medical stuff. It's really important you speak to your own consultant. But sometimes people just want to know, like, what is a zymote? Or when I do my injections, how big is the needle? Is it going to hurt? Do I have to do it? Does my partner do it? Where does the injection go? Am I allowed to ask work to have some time to go to this appointment? Like all of these things. And then you get, well, my HR department has said that we can do da-da-da-da-da, and we've got a fertility policy. So it's kind of just sharing information, which is so valuable. And when you're the patient, I don't know if you found this, Toby, but you don't want to waste the doctor's time either. You know that it's so precious and actually quite costly having these consultations. It's nice to have somewhere that's free where you can just say, well, what was your experience? And it just really helps.
Yeah. The only person I never felt like that was Jonathan Ramsey.
He seems to have the time for everybody.
He was just incredible.
he's
I
amazing.
mean, like, I think we booked, I don't know, however long the appointment was, but I swear we was in there an hour and a half just talking about everything that we'd gone through, my journey, but also Katie's own sort of feelings and emotions. But just coming back to your point about kind of those feelings of, you mentioned about when you've had or you've been unsuccessful with a pregnancy, but your friend or your family member is having a baby, whatever, and there's big announcements and stuff. It's a really complex set of emotions because, like you say, half of you is really happy for them. You've got a sense of huge envy and jealousy because you want exactly what they're about to have. And I think when you're navigating this space, you just feel like you're the only person in the world. So when you join a group where other people are having those exact same feelings, it really does validate that feeling. And it's every person that's gone through this in that situation feels pretty much the same. And that validation's like a real light bulb moment, actually, where you go, crikey, I'm not some weirdo that just just hates the world. Actually, there's other people like me that are going through this, and this emotion is just natural. It's okay. And that kind of I got you sort of feeling from a group of people that are similar in that sort of pathway is so powerful,
Yeah.
so powerful.
It just helps people cope, doesn't it, a little bit better once they see another person's perspective and actually they're not alone. And I think this is one of the big things that the support groups can do is provide that instant coping mechanism, saying, actually, I'm not on my own. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel isolated. There is support. People genuinely want to hear my story as well as I want to listen to other people's, and just give that level of comfort and support. And I think that's really what's really important here, isn't it? About anybody's journey is being that compassionate and empathy and actually realizing that these feelings are real. They're real to you. But actually, trying to cope with them, try and change your energy levels for action is going to be really so important for you to remove yourself from that environment and say, actually, I need to do something now. I need to do something for me. I need to do something for my partner. I need to go and find that right level of support. And it may be just another phone call to somebody that's on the group, independently of being in the group, that you can ask, a safe question and saying, how did you manage to do that? Because I'm really struggling here. And that could be just that change that somebody needs.
Yeah. I think actually we see that a lot in the group, where people are helping each other with relaying another experience. Like when you get toxic positivity, I'm sure we've all had that. And you're thinking, well, I don't know what to say to that person. I don't want to offend them. And actually they all just share their stories of what they've said. Some are very funny. Some are, probably shouldn't do that, but there you go. But it just gives so many different perspectives, which is incredibly valuable, like you say.
Yeah.
Going back to the charity then, in terms of your kind of mission and vision, how much has your journey and Tom's experience within that journey, how much has that shaped your kind of vision and mission with the charity?
I think completely, to be honest. I think as well, I grew up, I didn't have privilege growing up. God, it sounds like a right Katie sub story, doesn't it? Sorry.
What is that privilege, malarkey?
So,
I didn't have the caveat.
I didn't. I think because I can sometimes sound more eloquent, people think that I'm, from this posh background, but I'm not. My sister and I and my mum, we lived on a council estate growing up, and, my clothes were in charity shops, and we struggled. My mum struggled raising us on her own. She's an amazing woman and incredibly kind. And I think my mum has inspired me always to lead with kindness with whatever you do. My sister has inspired me massively because she's an incredible businesswoman and she is the queen of networking. I mean, she's amazing.
She does rock.
She's
rock.
incredible. So I think I'm very lucky that I've had two brilliant women in my life. And I think, to be honest, the charity, it was always that I knew that little girl version of me may not have ever had twins. And it just so happened that I married Tom. We were able to get some NHS rounds. We were then able to get some family money from his side to support our process, which was incredibly generous of them. But actually, the young version of little Katie wouldn't have been able to have got to that 5th round of fertility treatment. And if that was the case and I hadn't married Tom and I wasn't in that position, I might not be a mum today. And that realization, to be honest, for me was the key to think that, well, if that's my experience, how many thousands of people out there have stopped because they haven't been given the finances or the funding to have treatment? And the level of heartbreak that I know I would have felt there was just off the scale. And that for me was what contributed to wanting to start the charity, really. And of course, our experience then just ramped it up even more. Yeah,
absolutely. So in terms of sort of summarising your vision and mission with the charity, I'm sure you've got it, it's probably off your head in terms of your mission statement, but just so people, because we've talked about the support groups, we've talked about kind of access to funding and all this, but what is actually at the core of the charity? What's your kind of mission? And
I think the core
vision?
for our charity, like most charities, is to put ourselves out of business. I want to not ever need Fertility Action anymore. I'd like to get to a place where Fertility Action it's not required because the patient experience is so good. The education is brilliant. The emotional support is outstanding. The access to financial support is there, and that fertility is treated as a medical condition as it is diagnosed by the WHO. And instead of being thought of as a kind of optional treatment, actually put in the medical category that it should be put in. So for me, it's, getting to a space where the charity is not needed anymore would be the ideal.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that answer.
No, I wasn't either. No,
powerful.
Yeah.
And how do we find your charity? Where are you?
We are fertilityaction.org, a nice easy one. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, it's literally just on the front page of the website. You can do monthly or one-off donations. We are very much, as I said before, we're in our infancy. We need all the support we can get. And we are very grateful to you all at Test Him for supporting what we're doing, because without your support and the support of others, we wouldn't have been able to do anything so far. So anyone that would like to help us, we would be incredibly grateful, and I would love to chat.
Cool. And what's in the pipeline? What's in the pipeline for the next kind of 12 months or so?
There is
Because
so
you're
much.
always doing so much, so many projects. Ian, what do you think of this? What about this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. I can't stop. I think, I'm like a child. I think our main focus is on education. That's one. We have 3 pillars, really. It's our advocacy and equity. So we really want to make sure our work in Parliament is pushed forward. So we're obviously continuing the Fertility Access campaign. We also work alongside the Fertility Justice and the Fertility Matters at Work campaigns. We are also doing the Check Him Too campaigning. We'll be expanding, as you know, with yourselves in Parliament with a lot of our work from the male perspective and looking at how we can change things at primary care, introducing better resources, understanding education. So we'll continue with all of that advocacy work. We're also looking at setting up an all-party parliamentary group for fertility and working with Becky and Laura Rose to spearhead that. So the 3 of us will be pushing forward with that as soon as we possibly can. That work's been ongoing for a long time. We are also doing a lot with education. That's Emma, who I know you know, lovely Emma, the embryologist. That's her big passion. And also Carol Gilling-Smith from the Agora. They are exceptionally passionate about the education. I know James Nikopoulos is the same, and Jonathan. So we've got a lot of passion there for the kind of looking at secondary school education, junior medics, and helping GPs at primary care. And then I guess separately to that is our continued support emotionally. So looking at how we can expand our offering from a psychological counselling and peer-to-peer support side.
Gosh,
Huge, isn't it? What a remit. That's
So
just
if you've
mental.
ever got any doubt about where your money may be going, it's going in all of those places. Absolutely fantastic.
Kilimanjaro sounds easy compared to that money you're building. Yeah, it's incredible.
And not to mention that you also run a kids' family park in West Sussex, you know, Fisher's Farm. You've got to give them a shout out because it's such an awesome
I mean,
place.
it's not just me, thankfully. It's Tom, my husband, does a lot of the work there, and also my mother and father-in-law, Trina and Tim, who founded it years ago in 1990. So yeah. Was it? Yeah. No way. He's such a baby.
He is.
He is. We can vouch for that.
Full slug about that now.
Yeah, so it's mad, really. So yeah, we're busy, especially now, summer holidays. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. So what do you do to unwind? Because this is mental. I feel stressed just listening to the amount
Oh,
you've
it's
done.
not stress. Yeah, it is actually. That's such a lie. It is stressful. But my husband's amazing, and his mum and dad do loads with the farm park, and they've, you know, it's a great opportunity for me, really, that I've kind of been there. I've done a lot of the stuff within the business over the years, so I've learned and done a lot of the mistakes there, which actually, to be honest, with a charity, you do need to understand how business works, and it's been really helpful, actually. Yeah. There's loads of things I don't know. I'm still a total amateur, continually learning. But thankfully, I've met some great charity CEOs who've been really helpful. A lady called Donna from Rocking Horse, if you don't know that charity, look them up. Yeah. She's amazing, and she's been a super support. And a load of other people that you'll see I'm connected to on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's been great, and there's so much more work to do. But thanks to people like you, we're able to do it. So thank you.
You know, you've got our full support, and we look forward to doing more stuff with you over there. So I think there's going to be some fun stuff. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely fun. So we've definitely committed to getting you in the race car, possibly throwing you out of a plane as well, because we've got a skydiving connection. So there's plenty that we're going to do to raise some money. But in the meantime, head over to fertilityaction.org. Follow you on Instagram as well. You've got
at fertility.action on Instagram.
Just go and check them out. Put some hands in pockets and give some money, and
thank you.
Yeah, we'll
do some really good stuff for the future.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you.